God has been preparing an army for a season. He's been preparing an army not to battle during being comfortable, not to battle during when everything's easy. He's creating an army to battle when it's difficult. When the numbers are against us, when we may not be able to see the light at the end of the tunnel for a moment. And throughout our lives, some of us have already been through some of those dark seasons for whatever reason. Whether they were circumstances of our own, circumstances of other people, things that we found ourselves involved with, found ourselves into, that at that time and season, we did not understand why God would allow us to be in a circumstance or a situation or a place, because it seemed odd. We saw things, we were involved with things, we witnessed things that were atrocities, things that keep us up at night, things that are not easy. Some of the hardest conversations I have had with people, a lot of them are first responders, military, because they've seen things that we would not even know how to handle, process. It's not our place to process it anyways. We weren't called at that level of the war. There are things that they say, things that they are experienced when they come back home, or even law enforcement after you've been involved with things, or extraction of human traffickers, or victims of human trafficking, or domestic abuse, and those kinds of things. When they come out, there's things that you have to process. And every one of them sits there and says, well, my demons are louder today. They're trying to figure out how to do it. And unfortunately, the current world and majority of the church looks at that and kind of shrugs them off. Even church members themselves that were struggling or going through something, or we've seen something or been a victim of something. And honestly, the demons are louder that day. And in law enforcement, fire department, those terminologies are okay. They don't understand the significance of the spirituality of it, but it is still a true statement. And you know what some of their biggest concerns are for them to talk? You look at James chapter 5, confess your faults one to another, that you may be healed, that the effective, fervent prayer of a righteous man availeth much, which we know that actually is an amazing statement. But you know what some people's biggest fears are about being able to share the darkness? Where'd Scott go? Okay, he's in the back. You know what, with some of the, now I don't know why we're here. Do you understand why most people do not share the darkness that goes on? There's two main reasons. One, when they have shared, they're shunned, they're put out, they're oh my gosh, I can't talk about that. There's a disconnect that almost makes them dirty because of they experienced something that wasn't their fault. They've been put down and ridiculed. And I'm not just talking military, we're talking now church. We're not talking just law enforcement, we're talking church. When you sit there and say, listen, I'm struggling with this, it's like, oh, I can't believe you're struggling with that. I can't be with that. So what does that do? It causes the majority of people just to shut down and say, you know what, fine. Then I'm going to go into my dark little corner, which I have built up an amazing wall behind, and I'm going to sit in my own little dark little corner because I know that's safe. Do what? It's hidden from everyone else, and nobody else will know. I will put on a happy face, and I will make sure I'm smiling when I'm supposed to be smiling. I'll make sure I sound the way I'm supposed to be sounding, and no one will ever be the wiser of what my head processes through on a daily basis. Because I don't want somebody, I'll get to that one. The second side. And I know this very well in my own life. I know this very well in some very dear brothers of mine, both military and law enforcement, that I know we don't share because we don't want to interfere with the perfect world you live in to explain what we really have seen. Or because we don't want to injure you by what we've seen, trying to be protective of what we've been involved with so it doesn't hurt your heart. And we go back to the exact same nice little safety place that's there. Coming to an altar to share, coming to an altar to be vulnerable is difficult. Because it means I'm not perfect. It means I've got stuff in my head that isn't godly. It means I've got stuff in my head that I'm not truly sanctified in. Trust me. And you can look at me all day long, but I know I'm not the only one that still struggles with this. But what happens is we sit there and we believe all the songs. We believe that God is a way maker and he's a miracle worker. Trust me, I get he's a miracle worker. I get he changes things. I mean, seen that this weekend. I understand he orders our steps about everything that we do, puts the right people in the right place along the way to make sure that every step is the way it's supposed to be. But it requires us to do one thing before we ever take the first step. It means I have to trust in God even when it's uncomfortable.